The night was as dark as the deepest abyss, and only the faint light from our candles kept the darkness at bay. We were four kids, foolish enough to embark on a reckless and insane venture, standing in the middle of the forest. This wasn't just any forest. It was ancient, with centuries-old trees whose gnarled branches reached toward us as if trying to grasp us. My name was Alex, and I was only 11 at the time. The others, Vera, Max, and Dima, seemed just as nervous and scared as I was. Each of us carried something essential for our ritual. Vera brought a mirror from her grandmother's bedroom. Max brought lipstick he'd secretly taken from his older sister. Dima carried candles and matches, and I had a bag of gingerbread cookies. Why gingerbread cookies? It was part of some strange ritual Max had found online. We reached a small clearing surrounded by thick fir trees, their needles whispering in the wind. It was the perfect spot, quiet, eerie, and seemingly far away from any other people. Vera placed the mirror on the ground, and we all laid out our items around it. One by one, we lit the candles. Their flickering light cast eerie shadows around us, deepening the surrounding darkness. Max took charge, acting as though he knew exactly what he was doing. He drew strange lines on the mirror with the lipstick, a door and a staircase leading downward. My hands trembled, but I still arranged the gingerbread cookies in a circle as the ritual instructions had described. Someone let out a nervous giggle, trying to break the tension, but it only made us more anxious. We stood around the mirror. Max told us to hold hands and say the phrase. Vera's voice quivered as she was the first to speak. Queen of Spades, come. We all repeated after her, again and again and again. For the first few seconds, nothing happened. I started to think it was just a silly prank, but then the wind picked up. Not the usual forest breeze, but something different, cold, sharp, and seemingly coming from the mirror itself. The candles flickered violently, their flames hissing as if resisting the air around them. It's just the wind, Dima tried to reassure us, but his voice betrayed him. He was shaking, just like the rest of us. And then the mirror cracked. The sound was loud and piercing, like a scream. We all screamed, but no one moved. The crack on the mirror grew, as though alive, and I felt an icy grip tighten around my heart. A laugh echoed from somewhere, soft, feminine, mocking. Who's there? Vera shouted, her voice trembling but attempting to sound brave. There was no answer, only laughter. Then the mirror flared with a bright light, blinding us. I felt the ground beneath my feet tremble, as if something massive was rising from below. The staircase drawn on the mirror now seemed real. It descended into a dark, foreboding void. We need to leave, Max yelled, but none of us could move. Something in the mirror held us there. And then I saw her. In the reflection, a tall figure in a dark dress, with empty black eyes staring straight at me. She smiled, revealing sharp, blade-like teeth. I felt my voice catch in my throat. It was her, the Queen of Spades. She extended her hand, and I felt myself being pulled toward the mirror. I tried to resist, but it was useless. Dima and Vera were screaming, but their voices sounded distant. Max fell to his knees, clutching his ears as though trying to block out a sound only he could hear. The mirror was no longer a mirror. It was a portal, an entrance to another world, dark and cold. I could see the staircase leading down, and shadows moved below, indistinct but menacing. They were waiting for us. We shouldn't have done this, Vera whispered. Her face was pale, her eyes brimming with tears. But we couldn't stop now. It felt like every step we took bound us closer to this horror. The voices grew louder. Now we all heard them. They called our names, whispered, laughed, promised something, and threatened at the same time. I felt panic rising inside me, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. I couldn't move. Suddenly, the mirror began to vibrate. It seemed alive. The shadows below became clearer. Vera screamed, her voice echoing through the forest, and that scream seemed to be the last sound we would hear. But then everything stopped. For a moment, time seemed frozen, and then the mirror vanished. Along with it, the candles and gingerbread cookies disappeared. Only we remained, standing in complete darkness, surrounded by the sounds of the forest. What was that? Dima gasped, looking around. His voice was shaky as though he was barely holding back tears. I don't know, Max replied, clutching his head. But it was wrong. We woke something up. We began slowly making our way back to the forest's edge. The silence around us was deafening, but every rustle made us jump. No one spoke a word until we reached the familiar path. When we finally got home, the mirror was on Vera's porch. It looked normal. No cracks, no staircase, no figure, nothing. Just our frightened reflection staring back at us from the dark glass. We swore never to return to that forest. But each of us has since heard her laughter in our dreams. And one day, Vera noticed that a tiny crack had appeared in the mirror in her room.